Hi everyone. I'm a bit excited to talk about this topic today because before working in apps, I had a background more in e-commerce and I worked a couple of AdWords accounts for some years. So when I saw a new paid search product, I'm always kind of happy. But here I'm particularly happy because it merges this paid search side with the ASO side. I know lots of apps here are not doing any paid acquisition, and I think there's a lot of insights to get if you're not doing any paid at all, just from picking up the information that you can get here. I know the topic was called how to crush it with search ads, but it's not going to be me telling you how to crush it. It's more about what you can get and what you cannot from it. I don't mean to teach any lesson here. It's more about the experience that we learned in the past months or so. So the product was launched relatively recently. There's a lot of fuck-ups to be done. So hopefully after the talk, you won't do the same that we did. So that's a bit like to change the topic that was written on it. We're good? No, not good. Okay. So that slide is about me, but actually I'm not here to talk about me today. I'm managing acquisition for a Berlin-based health and fitness app called 8Fit. So part of what I'm telling is first-hand experience on the search ads, but actually I've been talking about this topic with about 12 other people running it to be sure it's not only what I'm experiencing, but also other people. So the point is not to talk about me, but you feel free to ask after the talk or tweet me or whatever. Can we move on, please? Actually, I like to talk too much, so this is going to be way too long for the talk, so we're going to need to move on the slides pretty fast. So yeah, I was saying I was pretty excited when they announced it back at the WWDC in spring. Maybe it was May or something. It took a while to come. The interface opened in October. I think you know what it looks like, so I'm not gonna like patronize you too much in what it is. It's just a first spot ads when you do a search in the App Store. Move on. So the first part is a boring one where actually you can compare what you had on the AdWords side and what you have here. Obviously the store are different. There's a lot of differences that we'll see through it. Well, the first one is that for now it's US only, so it's probably a bit of a restriction for a few of you. I heard recently they're going to open Canada, but everything has gone late with this product, so I'm not really expecting to go on too soon. But we'll see. More inventory will come up. My point is not to read the slides, so I'm just going to pass through these ones. Move on. Here there's an interesting thing comparatively to the Google product is actually you've got a couple of targeting options that you don't on the AdWords platform for those who know it. And in particular, you can target only specific gender or age range. So if your app is specific to that, or if it's got its sweet spot, in my own case, we try to cater for everybody, but we've got a sweet spot of audience that's middle-aged women. We can actually modify what we're buying from for this audience. So if you have a women app only, like my friends from Clue, this is actually an awesome option because they would go to AdWords and then advertise to all these guys. Doesn't make any sense. So these options are pretty nice. There are a few options that they don't have, but I'll see that later. The first part of the presentation is a bit of why you should do it, and then it's about why maybe you should not do it because it's a bit of a mess. But so I think that's the fun part. I hope there's nobody from Apple in the room. But, move on. So if you haven't seen it, the interface kind of looks like the AdWords one. It's just a little bit neater because Apple likes clean design and all. It's a little bit more limited in option also. I've got a tutorial that's linked here. You can get the slides later. That was made from my friends from Incipia. That's a how-to from the very beginning. So if you've never been on a paid platform before, it's actually a pretty cool video on YouTube here to get started. Move on. And it's got some fancy reports that we're going to see on the next slide, where you see actually the exact demographic by age. You can target by actually the states or the city where they are, the gender, if it's the iPad, and so on. So this level of information is actually pretty interesting, considering that Google is not disclosing it. It looks pretty fancy. To be honest, I prefer to deal with the raw data, so I'm not really entering. I think I saw this report for the second time the day I wanted to screenshot it for you. But if you need that information, it's there. I have it in my app because we ask people what their age is. I know a lot of apps don't have any signups or any age information, so this is pretty valuable to understand if the user who are clicking on your terms are actually the younger one, the older one. And when I say this is very valuable for ASO, it's actually you can run a very cheap campaign there just to get this insight and then understand who's clicking and who's not clicking, which until now was pretty much of a black box, so it was pretty tough to get this information. And so it's a bit of an enlightenment on what's happening in the black box that we didn't know, and lots of it was guesstimate. So the part of why, there's been a lot of speculation that 2/3 of install were coming from search in the App Store. Now both Google and Apple have said it. There's a big lie behind this number that we'll see just after, but actually it was true. So the number every ASO consultant has used from the Nielsen study back from 2013 was actually a real one. I was surprised myself. So the reason why was our unprecedented ASO insights, and that doesn't mean that you need to pour 5 digits of money to get these insights. A lot of them you can get them for free, and a lot of them you can't get for free. You can just get them by putting $500 or even $100. So I think this is really great. CPIs are extremely low considering the placement and considering it's US iOS. I guess it's only for the early days, so that will be the takeaway at the end, if I don't have time to show the slide, is get on now, because maybe in 3 months it's not that great anymore. So if you want to try it earlier is better. The other one is so far for us and for a couple of other advertisers, the post-install metrics has been really great from this channel. AppsFlyer published a report I have in another slide where they were showing it's almost on par with the organic. In my case, it's even better than the organic, so I'm happy with that. The other one, it's a fraud-free first-party traffic, which is pretty cool. I mean, Apple is not reselling that to anyone. You get special access to the black box, so that's really cool. I'll be back on the competitive war after that. And if you got really zero money and you don't even want to invest $100 on that to get the learnings, actually Apple is giving it to you. They're only doing that until the end of the year. You just go to the site, sign up, and you'll receive a coupon to do it for free. Here is for the ASO part. It's not only all about the paid search here. So, as my friend Herman Jacobi put it, is when we got the search popularity from the search ads there, and when Apple is showing you the approximative volume for each keyword, we realize how bad were most of the ASO tools with their estimates. A few of them have started correcting this. My friends from AppTweak were actually the first one to integrate this Apple data into their tools. So instead of having extrapolation that was made from web data, you got the actual Apple data. So that's way better. If you're not an AppTweak client, and maybe you should, there's a free extension that another friend of mine who's in the room today, Daniel, built. Hi, Daniel. Which is a Chrome extension that you can just add and verify the popularity for your terms. So that's pretty convenient for ASO research. Doesn't cost any money. You don't have to put any money in there. At my level, I think that the insight that's even more helpful than the volume and search popularity is actually what is really working with your app. And from the ASO perspective, you never know what you get. You know how you rank, but you don't know what downloads you get from that. So here you've got a bit of information on the top of the funnel, on volume, on how people click and so on. What I think is even more valuable is what's happening after the install. And because you didn't get this information before, here you can actually follow on query level what's the retention, what's the revenue per install on determined keywords. And then you realize that the variation here is massive. Like I've got some terms that are generating 20 cents and other that are generating $2. And before that, it was a lot of guesstimate to think, that good, is that bad? I was extrapolating a bit from the AdWords traffic that's coming from Android and also the web search. It's pretty similar, but it's not exactly the same. This information, I think, is extremely valuable, not only at the time of buying traffic, but actually at the time of redrawing your whole ASO strategy and how you're going to do it. This is AppsFlyer data that was published recently. I think the part on the right is more relevant. When they were saying there was a big lie between the 2/3 of install made from search, it's actually a lot of that come from brands. So some other guy put up a lot of volume from lots of e-commerce brand and then shopping, and you realize that most of the traffic in the store is actually branded traffic, app names and so on. So what you're fighting for in the ASO is actually less than half of all the searches in the store. So it's not 2/3, it's actually less than 1/3. This number was also confirmed by Google earlier this month. This is good to keep in mind. I tried to compare a little bit the CPI that I've seen on a couple of studies, one from Singular, another one from Mobile Action that was done on the early days in October. and then from 5 people that are independent developers, and you can see that all of them are below $1. So for the US iOS traffic, that's kind of a great deal, because if you look at the market price, it can vary a lot depending the source, your targeting, and so on. But I mean, if you're getting sub $1 CPI in the US iOS, come to me after, I can hire you, no problem. As I said, the post-install metrics were pretty promising. That's the AppsFlyer data that was published recently. It's a report you can find openly, so go for it if you after that. So it's a great channel, it's cheap, it gives you great insight, but it's not an easy channel, and that's often the case for very green channels, very early stuff. It's a bit in beta here. So I wanted to also show a bit of problems you might find. Maybe it will help not having so much. The first one is about the interface. Well, if you ever manage to log in, because lots of time it doesn't work, so here the trick is you put the VPN on the US IP and then it works. They kind of restrict the access for non-US. If you manage to log in, often happens to get 404, 504. Yesterday I even had the nice surprise to open my account and see that there was no more campaign in the account. So after 4 reload and 3 IP change, it came back miraculously. So don't freak out, it's just normal. The platform is in beta. If it was only that, it was fine, but there's lots of bugs and there's lots of limits. For example, you would change the screen to look at whatever ad group level, and the dates change. Oh, weird. And then you got keyword level, and actually the numbers change also on the same dates. So it's a little bit tricky here to get the real insight. What I recommend is try to pull the data from the API. There are no such thing as the FMP yet. I believe there's a business opportunity here if you do it faster than the Nanigans, Smartly, and so on out there, to build actually a managing UI that would be better than the interface. It's a bit hard to handle. I recommend you double check any change you do twice. One, for example, if you change the bid at the ad group level, well, the bid at keyword level is not changing. So actually you just did an interface change and nothing has changed at all. That's a bit of an issue you might run into. Don't change your bids at ad group level, it's useless. Manage duplicates very well. The API documentation is a bit weak. One example is that the URLs of the API are wrong in the documentation, so you have to investigate a bit to guess what the real URL are. So that's a bit of an issue too. There's a scalability issue, which is Apple is capping the traffic at the moment. I think they're waiting for more advertisers to come so that there would be more money for them. But also because it's US only at the moment, so it's limiting a little bit. And the sustainability issue comes that, yeah, sub $1 CPI are not going to be forever. So right now, it's been great for us. I hear it's great for a lot of people. The trends are actually changing pretty fast. I pull some data that I signed somewhere that I'm not supposed to share with anybody, so I'll be happy if you don't tweet that. This is internal data that we have, and basically the long story short is that while our volume tripled, the CPI went up by 60%. I'm expecting this trend to continue pretty much the same over the months to come. And if that is true, that means that this $1 CPI by February is going to be at $2.50 or something. So again, jump in early because it's good now. Another scalability problem is that if you work with AdWords, you're familiar with the match type concept. So some people, for example, organize their campaign with broad match for discovery and then exact match because you know exactly how much this keyword is worth for you. Well, bad news here, the match type are not really working properly. They did a nice job at thinking through them, but actually the problem is that they're very, very broad. So at the bottom of the screen on the right, I see this is not the updated presentation I sent, but it doesn't matter. On the bottom of the screen on the right, you can see that I'm buying the exact keyword diet app, and I'm actually getting served for do-it-yourself app. So that's a bit of an issue because I'm putting my bid not on do-it-yourself app, which is totally unrelated to what I'm doing. But also, if you look, there's one that's not highlighted, but I bid on workout meal plan, which is exactly what I do, and I get served for my brand term here. So I did organize myself and put my brand separately in my campaigns, but actually it comes from everywhere. And sometimes when I bid on my own brand name, I get served from my competitor's name. So this is a bit of an issue for the analysis. It's also a bit of an issue because there are some competitors I don't want to annoy too much and I don't want to bid on the brand, and I'm actually doing it without even knowing. So that's kind of not so cool. I expect this is going to change, but I don't know how soon, so let's see what they do. Another one, I know I'm over time, but I lost 3 minutes at the beginning, so I'll take them. Another one is actually the tracking. whatever. So the good news is Apple has already worked with the likes of AppsFlyer, Adjust, Koshava, and so on to bring the data there. And the awesome thing is you got the query level data, so you can actually match your own user with every query. Well, the bad news is that there's a huge discrepancy. The discrepancies coming from 3 parts, as I understand. Actually, I got confirmed earlier this week by Apple that all 3 are true. I was surprised that Apple recognized it. The first one is that they don't define and install the same. So your attribution provider would probably look at first open, but for Apple, as soon as it's installed, and that's it. That's not a very big deal. The other one is that the Apple API is actually very slow and is not managing to process all the queries that the MMPs are sending to them. I hope and I believe this problem will be solved soon. The last one is not going to be solved, is that the roughly 20% of people who activated the limited tracking option will never appear. So whenever you would see 1,000 install in the Apple interface, probably your attribution partner is only going to send 600 or 700 to you. So there's a bit of a loss, and you have to extrapolate on the results all the time. It's a bit of a hassle. The truth is we're still at a positive return on the strictly tracked terms. So I'm like, everything that's there and not tracked is a bit of a bonus for us, but it's true that it's a bit of a problem to tie it very closely. The other problem is that there's a bit of a competitive war here. The price are gonna really go up because on the short tail query that everybody's fighting for in ASO, well, no more first spot in ASO because the first spot is paid, so you lose one, but also this first spot is very expensive. There's only one placement. Took Google a year to add a second placement, but they're also very ad oriented, so I'm not sure Apple is going to move this way. Here, I can see a bidding war coming. Actually, on a few terms, I can see it already go really crazy. But the bidding war is not only on the generic short tail, it's also on your name. So here I put a bunch of examples that I found on very big name, Clash of Clans, Game of War, and so on, where competitors are heavily bidding on each other. I also saw companies that are bidding on their own other products in the portfolio. I think that's a little bit weird, but I mean, they must have a reason somehow. And that's not only the small one. There's a Dropbox example at the right, but actually if you look for Facebook and you find this crappy Facebook spammy app, I hope the developer is not in a room today. It's a bit of a bad user experience in my sense. From a relevance perspective, shouldn't be there, but maybe there's an opportunity to tap on big traffic. So here, example from Twitter, and even from the old Apple apps. So I guess those apps have a bit of a traffic that's interesting, like the Keynote, Calendar, and so on. So if you don't do it, and you say, yeah, this is paid, I don't really care, the problem is you might lose some of your organic traffic because your competitor is buying it. And that's happening to Candy Crush, to a lot of people. So what do you do against that? Well, you don't have lots of remedy, but to pay to protect your own brand. So that's what it looks like when you bid on your own brand. So it appears twice. I think this is pretty bad as UX. It took Google 15 months to correct that. They did the change in September that you can't appear twice for your own name. Maybe Apple would move it this way, but they're not there yet. I find pretty funny that actually Apple showed the example on their own website with Wish. No, it's the Amazon app that's twice there. But I think it wasn't a very good choice, but that's only my personal opinion. I said the relevance score was a bit of a mystery. One thing I've noticed is, so the relevance, basically the auction works on your bid multiplied by how relevant you are. If it's with my fitness app, I bid on Candy Crush, even if I bid $5 a tap, I'm probably not going to get served because it's totally irrelevant. What I noticed in the first week is that the relevance score was actually pretty much useless. And the result of that is that on my own brand terms, I was getting charged a lot of money. The good news is that I strike through this because it's changed really recently. And now you can protect your own brand at a very cheap price. Like I think I'm paying 2 cents a click from my own brand. And I say, why pay for my own traffic? First, not to get eaten by the competitor. But second, because here you get valuable insight on what are the exact query, oops, sorry about that. On the exact query people are putting. Do they put just API? Do they put the whole name? Do they put Pro? Do they put, in Android, they put APK and stuff? So actually, I think this is very valuable. The relevance score is mostly determined by the metadata. In CP, I published a blog post yesterday about how that works. So it's basically, it's the same as ASO. What's in the title has more weight. That's what in the keyword field. But the good news is what's in the description is already indexed for that. It's not indexed for organic traffic, but it is indexed for your relevance here. So you might want to take care of your description on iOS just the same way you take care of it on the Play Store because it indexes. I can see a day where they're going to start indexing it for organic too, but that day, it's been 6 months I'm saying it, and it hasn't happened yet, so who knows. In the first place, I never thought that Apple would do ads at all, so maybe don't listen to me on that. There are a bunch of other problems in there. There's no bid modifier, so it's a bit of on and off all the time. You can't do any creative testing, and actually you've got limited leverage on the relevance score because you can't change the ad. Apple decides what they show, they decide if the screenshots are displayed or not. I even noticed that one time my ad didn't have the screenshot properly there, like they messed up my own screenshots in the creative. Well, there's nothing you can do about that, so eventually they will fix it. There's no change log. In my case, I'm managing this alone, so that's fine, but if you've got a team of 5 people, it's a bit of a problem to see who's done the change and when, and you also have to write your own documentation because you want to remember that that day you changed the bid, and then you want to analyze it, so I would recommend that you keep track of every major change you do. The post-install data is not integrated, but I don't think that's a huge problem because you have it in the attribution partner, but still it would be nice that it would be in the interface. It is in AdWords for Android only. It would be nice. For ASO, a bit of a limit is that you don't have the impression share, so you don't really know the inventory. You know what you get, you've got the search popularity indexed, and you know what you get served on, but you don't know the total amount of impression. I've insisted a lot to the Apple team, and they told me there's no way we're going to publish that ever. Like, who knows? They change their mind sometimes. It's a bit of a limit, but I still think it's valuable information, and it's worth doing it. It might have an impact of organic. I didn't notice it myself, but again, in CP I ran a study on that actually they got a super nice boost on their organic ranks just by buying ads for these keywords. Sadly, it doesn't sustain after you stop paying, so it's a bit of a hassle, but maybe to do testing on specific keywords for your organic, it's worth running super specific campaigns, see how the effect is, and have a temporary boost. Or maybe it's Halloween or Black Friday and you want to do something about that. And I'm way over time, so it's my takeaway now. It's unparalleled because for the first time we can tap into the App Store information, but also you can stick ads in there, and that was never possible. It gives you amazing insight for ASO, and it's got excellent return on ad spend and CPI. So my advice is jump in early, because this might not be true in 3 or 6 months. But be aware that this product is still a little bit in beta. It's got a lot of issues. I can detail in private. I'm happy to talk more about it. And the tracking is a bit of an issue. I hope I show you a bunch of stuff that you didn't know before. If you have trouble scaling over $20, like my friend Jessica, I might have a few ideas also on the match type, so feel free to come over. I think that's it. Thank you very much.